Welcome to A Shot of Ag. I'm your host, Rob Sharkey. When you go to the grocery store, you like to see food and you like to think, well, maybe that came from a farmer that was close by. Not always the case, but why shouldn't it be? Well, today we're going to be talking with Jon Griffel from Carlinville, Illinois. How you doing, John?
Great. How about yourself?
Where is Carlinville?
About 50 miles north of St. Louis and 50 miles south of Springfield.
How far of a drive from Peoria?
A little bit over 2 hours.
Oh, yeah? So you made a trek.
It's not too bad.
So. There's no interstate, right?
Oh yeah, it's interstate all the way.
55?
55 and straight up.
Okay.
Yep, turn off at, I don't know, I'm terrible with names, but turn off at Lincoln and come straight up.
Yeah. There's a candy store in Lincoln. Maybe you'll hit that on the way back.
Yeah, not a big candy person.
Okay. You're a sixth generation family farmer. So who's all involved with your farm?
Yeah, so whenever I was growing up, I was involved in the farm with my grandpa and my dad, and then my grandpa passed away about 2015.
Okay.
So it's me and my dad on the farm now, and then we have a couple other people that help us seasonally, you know, with harvest planting and occasionally with cattle.
What all are you raising?
Yeah, so we have corn, soybeans, wheat, and then we grow hay, and then we also have our own cow-calf beef herd.
Okay. So do you have like a feedlot at the farm, or do you got some timber ground, or how's that work?
Yeah, combination. So we do all the way through. We do calf all the way through to feeding them out. So we have the pasture that's part of our family's original farmstead that was there since 1856. And so we pasture back there and then bring them up, and we're just in the process of doing that actually this week, bringing them up and separating them and putting them into feedlots and getting them moved around.
So are they always on grain?
Not always on grain. So they'll spend the first almost year and a half, 2 years of life on pasture, and then they'll come in and they'll finish on grain.
Gotcha.
So grass-fed, grain finished.
You married to Kristen.
Yep.
Where'd you meet her?
I met her at University of Illinois in Springfield. We were both there for a year, and then I transferred and went to Blackburn College. So for the first 5 years we were together, we were at the very least an hour apart, and then she was 8 hours apart when we were in Minnesota until we finally got engaged.
Oh, the long distance.
It was always a distance relationship.
Yeah.
So.
Did you do a lot of driving?
Yeah, a lot of driving.
Like, what year was that, roughly?
That would have been 2012 to 2015.
Okay, so you're a lot younger. So you didn't have the deal where you were dating a gal that was far away, and then you had the long distance phones. You didn't have that.
So we had texts, but we'd still do phone calls. But this was pre-FaceTime, so now they at least get the advantage of FaceTime. Before it was just phone calls still. So we were kind of right in that zone, but texting definitely helped.
Okay. You think that was better when you were dating?
I think it was better for college. So I played basketball in college, and then she was involved in different groups, and so our schedules were pretty busy anyways. Mm-hmm. So we could always kind of touch base, but then we could set apart a day or so that it would just be us being together, not everything else and trying to live life and do everything. We just set apart that day and not plan anything.
So you're saying it was better when you actually didn't have to talk to your wife?
Yes. No. Gonna get me in trouble.
I'm just trying to think of kids?
Yeah, 2. We have my son Jamie, who's going to turn 5 at the end of the month, and my daughter Claire, who turned 2 back in June.
Oh my gosh, young ones.
So, yep.
Y'all are running.
Yep, all the time. So we have our 2-year-old is at the stage where she's either an absolute saint or an absolute demon, and you never know which one you're going to get.
Oh.
So yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to come back and farm?
No. Actually, whenever I was going throughout high school, I was involved in FFA. I won State Star Farmer. I got my American degree.
What's that?
State Star Farmer is like an overall award for farming activities and keeping track of your record books and doing things like that.
Oh.
So I was diversified because I had cattle and grain crops as well.
And you could keep records?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
is that because you start out like FFA, you have that Star Green Hand, which is like the freshman, and was yours like the sophomore? Or
no. The Star Farmer you get is the senior year, and it's like one of the top 3 or 4 awards given out.
Oh, so you're like at the top of
there,
the top.
Then, yeah.
Okay.
So,
you must have been really good records.
Yeah, probably better then than I do now. So, but.
All right, so you did that.
Yep.
But you weren't for sure you were coming back.
No, that really wasn't my plan. I went to college actually to be a high school history teacher, and I went to my first teaching class, and this was 2011. There was a teacher surplus in Illinois. There was a time whenever they would say there'd be 100 applicants for every job open.
For teaching?
For teaching.
Okay.
Which is not the case now, but it was the case then.
Yeah.
And the professor, the first day I walked in, said, well, if you ever want to make any job or have a job or make any money, don't become a teacher. And so I just stood up and left the class, and I went and changed my registration and went to business. So
whoa. So you just, I mean, did he say anything, the teacher, or did he just?
No, I don't think he expected it. I don't know. I just got up and left. I had still had time. We were still in registration. I was like, well, if I'm not going to be here, I might as well not waste an hour, and just left and went and registered for other business classes.
Really? Did you walk out flipping the bird?
No.
Yeah.
Just
I'm out of here.
grabbed my bag and left.
That was it.
That was it. So.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Oh yeah, really. I mean, I don't do things for drama, but it was just it seemed like the right thing to do, so I did it.
So now you're a business major.
Yep.
So what do you want to do with that?
I don't know. I think that's why I became a business major. I just kind of took whatever opportunities became available. That's kind of how I've lived life up until this point. I just kind of see where things will take me and what opportunities arise. But I transferred to Blackburn College, and I found out that if I took 2 extra classes, that I could get a accounting degree as well as a business management degree. So
Yeah.
I did that and got
Are
that
you a
degree.
numbers guy?
No, I looked at it and said it's only 2 extra classes. And once you
Okay.
get past 12 credit hours, they don't charge anymore if you go up to 21. So I just took extra classes.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, so that was nice.
But then you have to do extra
Well, yeah.
classes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a numbers guy. Like I can't do obscure math. Like if I have to go try and do any type of calculus or
You can't figure out
Those-
how tall a flagpole is measuring the shadow and dividing that by the curvature of the earth.
no.
That's not you.
No.
But
Numbers-
assets or liabilities minus,
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
something
the
like
kind
that.
of math that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yep.
All right, so you graduate, then what?
So then I actually moved to Minnesota for 2 years. My wife was already up in Rochester, Minnesota, working at Mayo Clinic as a surgical assistant. So I followed her up, and I knew we were not going to stay in Minnesota long term. So I
Why?
thought about it because she is originally from Illinois as well. We wanted to both come back and be closer to family. Family is important to both of us, and we didn't want to be up there for forever.
It's
And
really cold up,
And it's cold,
miserable
yeah.
up there.
It's either cold or it's humid. There's like 15 days where it's not either of those. But then, so I figured if I'm only going to be up here for a short period of time, and I don't really know what I want to do, I'm just going to try as many try things that sound interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I did things from I got my real estate license, got involved in real estate. I worked at a Shields part-time. I worked as
The outdoors?
yeah,
Okay.
as a salesperson part-time.
What were you selling? Boats?
I was selling
Sell those boats? That'd be
no
cool.
golf clubs, weights, kayaks, baseball gloves, soccer stuff.
Last I knew, a kayak was a boat.
Yeah, well, not the big boats, I guess, but didn't sell too many of those.
All right. So real estate, Shields, what
Yep.
else?
And then I worked as a salesperson for a microbrewery out of the Twin Cities. They were
Oh.
expanding into Rochester.
Like you were
So-
selling beer?
Yep, going to
Okay.
bars and selling beer and going to stores and selling beer. So,
So you go to a bar and say you need to have this beer on tap.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, and that was actually, it was very good for me at that point because I always thought I had a little bit of a sales knack to it, but there was distributors in town that owned, they would install the taps for the bars. They would
Yeah.
pay for them and give it to them, but then they would only have one tap that couldn't be that distributor's beer.
Oh.
So they'd have 15 taps, and I could only compete for one with everybody who wasn't working with that distribution company. So it was a good sales thing, and never hurt to just. I was 23 years old, so hanging out in a bar and talking to bartenders wasn't the worst thing in the world.
But you were good at selling. You were
Yeah.
like the if you sell me this pen type of guy.
No, I would say I was better with relationships. I always kind of went to make a relationship with the person first, and then see if I could get the product to move too. But it tended to work out that if I made the relationship first, the product would follow.
Yeah. You still sell real estate today?
Yep.
Do you have your face on a billboard?
No.
You know how they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't do it, huh?
No, don't have my face on a billboard. Don't do a lot in advertising, just more word of mouth. I'm back in the area I'm originally from.
Do you work for somebody or on your
Yeah,
own?
I work with Century 21.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're around some places.
Like
Most of
everywhere.
them, yeah.
So are you selling houses, farms?
Yeah.
What?
So houses, and then not as much in the agricultural space, but houses and commercial property.
Okay.
I've kind of leaned in with being on our Chamber of Commerce, also doing that the commercial side, and I kind of have ties in with that. I have people who are asking me for places for purchase or lease or whatever else that they need.
All right. Besides the farming, tell me what our market is.
Yeah, so our market is a food cooperative. We started, I want to say about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And we tried to do like a common stock buying and there was a lot of processes to get the organization in place, a lot of tax, a lot of stuff I didn't understand, but there was very smart people on our board that explained it to me.
In Carlinville?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, in Carlinville. So we lost our local grocery store, and the idea is that we wanted to bring a grocery store back to our community that people could invest in and have that opportunity to get a return on their investment, and then also be able to promote local goods.
Gotcha. That is great and all, but you're going to have a grocery store. People want like bananas.
Yep.
You can't grow them easily here.
Yep. So we are partnering with a national grocer as well to bring in those staple items. But our focus is really on trying to bring as many of the many products as we can from as local as we can. You know, 50, 100, 150 miles away, bring that in. I think it's a great opportunity for people in agriculture. I was very fortunate. I grew up on a farm that was kind of already established. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people that want to get involved in agriculture, and the costs involved with starting are so exorbitantly high that they can't. Mm-hmm. But this gives them an opportunity to have a local market for growing fruits, vegetables, things like that they can. And they might not need, 5 or 600 acres of farm ground. They might need 2 or 3 that they could put greenhouses on.
Yeah.
So it gives them that opportunity.
So if they want to grow tomatoes or rhubarb or something like that, this would be a place not only where they can sell it, but people know that it came from Jim Bob down the street.
Yep. And be able to have that local investment and be able to put a face with the product.
Okay. What is this thing? It looks like maybe an iPad, but it's made out of paper stuff.
So I was always growing up, I was a very big reader. I would read almost nonstop. I would read on the bus, anytime I had extra time in class, anything like that.
Lord, how old are you?
31.
Just wait. Just wait.
I know, it's coming.
Ooh. Who did this? That's like reading an aspirin bottle.
Well, it's supposed to be able to fit in your pocket. It's like a coat pocket or something.
Well,
so that's
you make the Bible small enough you can fit it in it too.
True.
That is the smallest writing I think I've ever seen in a book. Anyway, I digress. I interrupted you.
No, you're good. So I went through college and got burnt out on reading. I spent probably 4 years after that without touching a single book. I was kind of tired of getting forced to read. Okay. And then I kind of made myself get back into it, and I set a goal 5 years ago to read 52 books in a year, so a book a week.
Oh,
and so
that's great. You're doing like Cat in the Hat stuff and that.
Yeah,
this? How long would it take you to read a book like this?
Less than a week.
Okay.
So I did that, and then I've compounded on that goal, but I brought it back to 50. So in the last 5 years, I just finished a couple days ago my 250th book in 5 years.
Okay.
So I was doing 50 a year for all 5 of those years.
What's your favorite book?
I wouldn't say this is my favorite book, because I always like nonfiction, or fiction, the stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But nonfiction-wise, I brought this because this is the book that I've given away the most. It's called The Obstacle is the Way, is because it's based on Stoic readings and talking about how...
Stoic readings?
Yeah, like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman...
I saw that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do that.
On my signal, unleash hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do things like this, and he talks about that the obstacle is part of the way. We always see things in like a linear fashion, like this is how life will go through here. But then you hit an obstacle, and you have to accept that the obstacle has just become a part of the way, but you have to find either a way around it and continue to go, or find another path.
That's like when the Avengers stole the Infinity Stones and they started their own.
And had all the different timelines?
Yeah.
The 12 million different timelines?
This is about the multiverse?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes about as much, no, I'm just kidding. It makes a little bit more sense than that.
So basically you're talking about, something in your life that is going to, you got beat or you're defeated or something like that, but you're going to be able to, I don't know, figure that out.
Work around it, work through it, find a path to go and keep making your way. And I think it's also important because I don't send it to people just whenever things aren't going well, but I also send it to them whenever things are going well.
Why?
Because I think it's as important to realize that obstacles will occur.
Oh.
You have to know that they will come. And I think that that's a big part of it, is knowing that obstacles will occur in your life, and that you have this gives you an idea and maybe a little bit of philosophy behind being able to continue to push through whenever you do hit those.
Preemptive.
Yeah, preemptive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I maybe it's got like an audio book.
Oh, absolutely.
I can listen to
Yep,
it.
it has an audio book.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I couldn't read that. Even with a magnifying glass, I couldn't read that thing. Okay, so you're a busy guy. Oh my gosh, really? You do a podcast?
Yeah.
Whew.
Terrible business strategy, isn't it?
It's something. How We Grow, that's the name of it?
Yep.
What's it about?
So it's kind of like a combination of like I've always been big into like personal growth and things like that, and so there wasn't something like that in the agricultural space. So I take it as an opportunity to learn about people's lives in agriculture and learn about the stories behind people, because I know that there's a lot of trade publications and everything else and podcasts that talk about commodities and prices and economic demands, things like that, like all of the business side of it. But I think that there's a lot of interesting stories that people don't know behind the people.
Not really.
Yeah.
That's what everybody says. But
Well, I think there is.
a lot of great stories in ag.
Yeah.
No.
I think there is. There's a lot of great stories of overcoming, especially when we talk about overcoming adversity.
We'll
There's a lot of it.
Agree to disagree, I guess.
Yeah, that'll work.
Did you know how to do any of that before the whole? I mean, because podcasts, you have to figure out, like the production side of it too. Did you know any of that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Just read about it, listened to some podcasts about it, and then just bought stuff on Amazon and figured it out.
Really?
Yeah.
You listened to a podcast about doing a podcast.
Yep.
Are you videotaping them?
Yeah, so I use a software called Riverside that I usually do most of them right now via Zoom,
Yeah.
or via like a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And yeah, it records that while they're going and records two separate links and is uploading it as we're going. It automatically transcribes the whole conversation, everything else. It makes it really easy.
That way, if you get glitchy on one side or the other, it's recording from their computer.
Yep.
That's actually, I've done some interviews on it before,
Yeah.
so it makes sense.
Oh yeah. It's really nice and really handy.
And then you got to edit all that.
Yeah, so it'll actually automatically take out pauses and stuff as you go, and then you edit, wherever else you want to go on it.
Wait, I don't want to get inside baseball, but how do you take out pauses on a video?
It does it itself. So it takes out the pauses, it senses the pauses in the audio, and then takes it out in the video corresponding.
See, this is what Arnold Schwarzenegger was warning us against in those videos. Are those movies? Remember the ones where it's Skynet and all that?
Have you seen the self-propelled tractors and things? And this is what he's warning us about?
Yeah, the tractors are driving off satellites. You're talking about a computer thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
You
don't think that? Well, that tractor's not really thinking, I guess, but.
No, but
will
your
in the
computer's
future.
thinking, we got to stop talking. Because honestly, what I've learned is nobody cares about podcasts. And here
Yeah.
you are doing them.
Of course. I do it for myself. I don't look at any viewership number, listening numbers, anything like that. I do it because I want to have good conversations with interesting people.
Yeah, nobody listens to mine either.
Well, hey,
All right. What I was going to say is you're a very busy person with your farming and your podcasting, but yet you spend a lot of time helping out others and getting involved in stuff. Why? Why do that?
Well, I got very involved in our community. A couple years ago, there was a kind of strong anti-Illinois sentiment. We were losing people as a state. People were leaving we were losing more and more every year. And I was seeing a lot of people, and especially rural communities, my age leave because there wasn't opportunities there, or there wasn't as many opportunities as there are in other cities. And so I can't move my farm. I can't move my farm to Tennessee or Kentucky or to Missouri. I can't move and go. I'm here, so if I'm here, I'm going to be a part of making it better. So what I did is I just became involved. Anything that I could become involved with to make it a better community, I did.
Chamber of Commerce, you were the president.
Yep. So we brought back our Chamber of Commerce. It almost kind of died during COVID. We got down to 12 members, which were people that were only reason they were members still is that they were auto-renewing their credit card essentially.
Yeah, they forgot
about
about
it. So they were members. So we had 12 starting 2.5 years ago, and then, or 2 years ago, and then we came in and the chamber was in debt. Like I said, had 12 members, was offering nothing essentially.
In debt?
Yeah.
So how do you get in debt?
They'd continued throughout COVID to pay the rental on a building.
Oh.
And just kept accruing those as well as paying, all the domain names for websites and everything like that, but not doing anything. So we walked in and they had almost 80% of our first year's budget worth of debt.
Oh.
So we went out, and our community has been fantastic and our board has been fantastic because we went out and we were able to talk with people, and at the end of the first year, we ended up with 67 members.
Okay.
So then
wow, that's quite a jump.
Yeah, so we went from 12 to 67, and we paid off
It's like
that
selling
debt.
beer.
Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I could have been that good at selling beer. But it went from 12 to 67, and we were still held like networking events, and we brought in speakers and did things like that throughout the year, really kind of bootstrapping them though.
Okay.
And then we brought back our annual awards banquet, and we're able to recognize members of our community. And then we are going to wrap up this year in a couple weeks, and we went from 67 to 95.
Oh, wow.
So we've still continued to grow.
How big is Carlinville?
5,700 people.
So not that big.
Not that big.
Not that many businesses, but boy, you must be getting all of them.
We've got almost all of them, and then we've got a lot of buy-in from community members and churches that are nonprofit members and things like that. So we've really tried this year to focus in on educating our businesses and connecting them. So we really looked at, in Carlinville, there was 52 weeks out of the year. There were events occurring on 42 out of the 52 weeks of the year. So we said we really don't need another event. Why? We're not going to put all of our effort into running a one weekend event. Like, there's enough going on. So what we did instead is focus on how do we connect the community, because we have not a great communication between different community groups and different businesses in the schools and the city. So what we actually did is we just unveiled an app a couple weeks ago that has all of the community calendars in one place, has all of our chamber members, has their map, has their businesses, their sales, everything like that there.
Oh, that's thinking ahead.
Yeah, so it's been really good.
Also involved with the Illinois Farm Bureau Young Leaders. What do you do there?
Yeah, so I represent District 15. That's Macoupin, Madison, Bond, Calhoun, Greene, and Jersey counties, all kind of along the Mississippi River there. And help host and network among state events for people under the age of 35 in Illinois Farm Bureau.
I mean, that's at least 12. That's probably 20 meetings a year.
It's a decent number of meetings. Yeah.
Okay.
And then bringing in speakers for the district for young leaders and stuff like that. I'm going to be having one in a couple months, bringing in somebody to talk about business diversification on the farm.
Oh, okay.
So
my wife said I can't ask any Farm Bureau questions.
That's up to you.
I'm the one that has to go home with my lovely wife. So,
hey, you already put me on the spot earlier, so this might be your chance to get in trouble.
I know, but it's my show. What is the Farmers and Ranchers in Action?
Yeah, so it's a national group that is connecting farmers and farm organizations with businesses that have climate goals. So like your McDonald's, your big corporations like that have climate-friendly goals, and we're trying to find partnerships within agriculture as to how do we get to achieve those.
Okay.
So I serve as like a farmer ambassador, so I'm able to meet with those people and just give them a farmer's perspective.
You meet with McDonald's?
So I was at a national conference a couple years ago where it wasn't CEO, but vice president or president of some division for them.
Ronald?
No, it wasn't him. I know, I would have been really excited.
Yeah, that would have been really
That'd been
cool.
really good.
Okay, kind of creeps me out.
The Hamburglar, maybe, but we'll see.
Do they actually listen?
Yeah, so I think the biggest interesting thing was at that point you had a lot of companies that were buying carbon credits but had no idea what carbon credits were. Mm-hmm. So actually getting to talk with farmers and have an idea of what that was, but then also I was able to serve on a panel at that point too and they talked about the different things that we face in agriculture. And they were kind of shocked, I think, by the market standards and the things like that we deal with on a daily basis.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's what you always want.
Yep.
But I always figured it's kind of lip service, right? Oh, we're just going to go meet with some farmers and pat them on the back and say, go produce my beef.
Yeah. No, but they sat down and they listened, and they actually had like good discussions and a lot of questions about it too.
Mm-hmm. Are you on social media?
Yeah.
Where are you at?
So I'm on Facebook, Jon Griffel or Griffel Farms, and then also How We Grow podcast, and then on Instagram the same. So
2 F's, 1 L.
Yep.
In Griffel.
Yep.
Not sure I agree with that.
I'll tell you what. The interesting thing is that there is somebody on the other side of town with the same last name, and we are like sixth cousins.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never met anyone else with the same last name, but I'm just barely related to someone 5 miles away with the same last name.
Do you like them?
Don't know them that well. We'll say sure. They're farmers too, so what's not to like, right?
Well, I mean, I guess if you don't know them that well, maybe it's because you met them and you thought maybe I don't like you.
No, just different circles.
All right. People do put a lot of work into podcasts. So How We Grow podcast. I'm going to go check it out. I think people should too, because you're a very smart guy. You're a great representative for agriculture. So I'm glad you're not just doing the podcast, but you're also out there helping your community, which not everybody does. And it takes a certain personality to do it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Jon Griffel from Carlinville, Illinois. That's the town that does not have a road that goes straight through it. You got to drive around a park or something?
No, down around a square. So that's the square where we'll have Christmas in Carlinville, and
What's the difference between a park and a square?
you gotta drive around it. Park is.
Jon, thank you very much. Everybody else, we'll catch you next time.